Guten Tag alle, Herr Wallis hier. Heute werden wir über das Perfekt sprechen. Today we're going to talk about the present perfect, or in German, the perfect tense. In general, the present perfect is used in spoken German to relate past events, while the imperfect is used primarily in written German to relate past events. There are some exceptions. Most notably, the modal verbs are used often in the imperfect, and also the key verbs haben und sein. But let's take a look at how these two look side by side, or at least one on top of the other. Ich habe Deutsch gelernt is perfect. So what do we have here? We're going to have a helping verb or auxiliary verb, as sometimes we call it in English, and then the participle, or the Partizip 2 in German. The past participle in English is on the end. Und ich lernte Deutsch. So you have the simple past. I learned German. Okay. So what happens? The perfect tense in German has two very important elements. One of them is the helping verb, either haben or sein, and if you want to know more about that topic, you can see our video on it. Why does it have two helping verbs? Look at the video. And then gelernt, which is the past participle here. And what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about how to form that past participle for verbs, okay? So let's compare the English here with its German counterpart. In English, we have a helping verb or auxiliary verb, and we have the past participle right beside it. I have played soccer. But in German, that participle is going to be at the end of the clause or phrase or sentence, whatever it is, okay? So in German, the past participle is at the end. Okay, unless there's subordinating conjunction or something involved where the word order would be upset from its original. Okay, so forming the past participle of a German verb can be a bit complicated. So we're going to just go through the rules for doing so that you can work with most verbs in German. Okay, so most verbs, most weak verbs, or some people call them regular verbs, are going to follow this particular rule. You have an infinitive form of the verb, so we have spielen, which is the infinitive form of the verb spielen, to play, the verb to play. So we're going to get the stem of this verb, which is spiel. That we're going to take that en off, and we have spiel. We're going to add a ge to the front, and then we're going to add a t to the back, and we're going to get gespielt. This is played. This is the past participle. So, for example, ich habe Fußball gespielt. I have played soccer. The most regular verbs follow this rule, okay? Alright, so if the verb ends in ieren, however, like studieren, then the past participle's formed a little differently. You're still going to drop that en off the end to get the root of the verb, so studier. And then we're going to add a t to the end, but we're not adding a ge to the front, so it's just studiert. Ich habe mein Deutsch studiert. I have studied my German. Okay, now sometimes there are verbs that have separable prefixes or trennbare Präfixe. So such verbs, prefixes are an, auf, zu, mit, aus, bei, hin, nach, fort, zurück, fort, oder ein. So there are a bunch of them. And over time you just get used to see them. One of the most common is auf. So we're going to use this verb aufmachen, which means to open, basically. So you're going to remove the en. We're going to get the root of the verb, aufmach. We're going to put the t on the end, aufmacht, and we're going to slip that ge between the separable prefix and the root of the actual main verb, which is machen. And we're going to get aufgemacht. So, ich habe die Tür aufgemacht. I've opened the door. Okay. Now, if the verb has an inseparable prefix, and some examples of those are be, ent, fair, zer, or imp, like in our verb bezahlen, to pay. You're going to basically remove the en, just like you did with all the others, but you're not going to add a ge to the front, but you will add the t to the end. So bezahlt, ich habe bezahlt, ich habe schon bezahlt, I've already paid. Okay, so now, if the verb ends in nen, ten, or den, after you, if you're looking at the infinitive form, then you're going to have to do something extra also. You're going to take the root of the verb. In this case, our verb is arbeiten, so the root of it is arbeit. We're going to add an extra et to the end, arbeitet, and we're going to add the ge to the front, gearbeitet. So ich habe heute lang gearbeitet. So I worked a long time today. Okay. Now, sometimes verbs may contain a combination of any of these rules, like mitarbeiten, mitgearbeitet, or entfernen, entfertet. Okay, so if you want to try here for a minute to think about what the past participles of these verbs may be, you can test yourself. I will give you the answers here. Lernen is a normal verb, so it's gelernt. Machen, again, a normal weak verb, gemacht. Studieren, since it ends in ieren, we're going to just say studiert. Warten, it ends in ten, so we have to add that extra et, so it's gewartet. Demolieren, demoliert. Arbeiten, gearbeitet. Kaufen is a regular weak verb, gekauft. Here we have a separable prefix in the next two, so aufgemacht, zugemacht. Spielen is a regular weak verb. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how to form the past participles and how they're used in the perfect tense. Vielen Dank für das Zuschauen und Zuhören. Ich wünsche dir noch einen sehr schönen Tag. Tschüss, auf Wiedersehen.